Welcome to the MF Show, your pit stop for celebrity interviews. I'm Rich Waiters.
And I'm Jerry Zayden. We're going to talk about hot car topics and the automotive industry and where it takes us.
Today we've got a special guest with us here, TJ Hunt. He's been with Magnaflow here going on almost 7-8 years now. Time is flying. If you don't know who TJ Hunt is, he's a professional drift driver now. He's had a lot of things going on from the days he started in his garage working on cars like most of us out there to today having a very successful YouTube channel and a huge following of people that are just car enthusiasts. So we're glad to have TJ here and talk a little bit more and let you know more about him.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm the first guest, right?
Yes, sir.
Take that as a win. I'm hyped to be here.
He's always trying to be number one.
Yeah,
That's
always.
awesome.
I think we all are.
It's kind of cool. He was just telling me about open wheel racing.
Yeah. TJ went from really just being a car enthusiast to one day figuring out, I've just got to get behind the wheel and actually get some wheel time and push these cars to the limit.
Yeah, I think that's how most of us all start. I don't imagine most people who start modifying cars or like have, just a cool street car ever like think about really getting into racing. But when you have the opportunities, I think everyone takes every opportunity possible to at least just try it or like go to like a K1 speed or something and to see like if they think they're like, we all think we're fast cars or fast drivers on the street. So it's cool to like have a opportunity to show it. And then when it works out, it's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, so when it comes to fixing up cars, obviously we're all young at some point. So how did you get introduced to cars? Was it your grandfather, your dad?
No, no one in my family liked cars. There was no like stem from that other than just like living in San Diego. I grew up like kind of close to the beach, like 30 minutes or so. But whenever we'd go down to like La Jolla, you'd always see like, this is like 06 era, 05 era, where it was like Murcielagos were hot, like Gallardos were hot, all that type of stuff. So you'd go down to La Jolla, you obviously see a bunch of like exotic cars, and that's where Symbolic Motors used to be. It's now Gara, but it was Symbolic. And I used to just go there and like was interested in the cars there and found a friend at school who was also interested in them too. And we would just take trips down on the weekends and go take photos in the dealership. And that's like kind of where my car love started, not knowing anything, but just being like, oh, these are cool looking and they sound cool. And I like memorized all the brochure specs and stuff. And that's like what started it. And then that passion just like grew all through like 3rd, 4th grade and carried to high school when I finally could like get a license. And then it was like, oh, now this obsession that was all like through a window can now like somewhat be a reality and actually get to drive a car. And then it kind of just took off from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it kind of reminds me of, when you go to these car events, you have these 14-year-old kids with cameras. They're taking amazing pictures. And there's one kid named Soren Swift. He's with his dad all the time. He's always like hanging out the window of his dad's GT3, getting these amazing roller shots. And I think he just got his permit or maybe just turned 16. But this kid's been out there since he's like 12 or 13 shooting pictures.
Yeah, I think like today's time is a lot different than what it was then. Like there wasn't social media. So like I don't ever even recall hearing about car events or beings. Like I know they existed, but like I like hot import nights and stuff. I had no idea what that was and had no way to get exposed to what that was. So like in today's time, you have all these kids, you go to like Cars and Coffee and whatever, we all see them. They're like super young with like just a camera, just shooting. And I feel like that's very similar to how it was for me, but they just have way more opportunity to get exposed to events and even know what they are. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Sort of like the Hot Wheels thing, It all starts with that little bit of impression, but then when you get to hear that first engine, you get to see that thing drive by, and literally you get to walk up to this thing that was an icon for the rest of the world. It's your kind of first exposure. It's one of those, I think, moments that everybody in the car world has. It's like, this is the aha, like, oh, I want to do things and I want it to be car related.
Yeah. I remember being so excited just to be able to drive a car. Like, you're watching cars and watching them on the road, you see something cool and like you get excited about it. And when I turned 16, the day, so like, I think the permit is when you're 15 and 6 months. In California, you get your permit. So I was right on the dot, in there taking my test, studied for it, make sure I didn't fail it. And I scheduled my driver's test the day of my birthday at like 8:30 a.m. Like that was like, wake up. And I was like, Dad, let's go. Like that was my birthday present, was like just making sure I didn't flop it. And yeah, that was I remember it being like, it meant the world to me to get it the day of, to finally just be able to drive a car.
I think there's this trend here, right? Because like I was that way. I'm sure Richard was that way.
Yeah.
My son Zach was that way. And then there's some kids that like they're not in any rush to get the permit or a license, which blows me away.
I'm always shocked when I hear someone that's like, oh, I'm 19 or I'm 20 or I'm 23 and I don't have a license. But I guess it all depends on like where you grow up. Like New York, LA, like people just don't have the fascination, even though there's still like crazy cars in those areas. But yeah, I don't think any of us were that.
What was your first car?
My first car was an E90 328i.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a cool car.
Fun car.
Yeah, it was fun. It wasn't like mod friendly, but like I threw the book at it, like of what you could do.
I remember something and kind of listening back to some of the earlier content you had, but you kind of had this binder like of like your dream cars and like what you were putting together for what you thought was going to be the best or the pinnacle car to own.
How do you know that is my question. Yeah, I still had it's in my office today, my display case.
Yeah.
But when I was in like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, me and my friend made a car club, and like in this binder, you guys might remember this website. Do you remember? It was called fantasycars.com.
Oh yeah.
I would go on fantasycars.com every night and just print out, like, my dad would get so pissed because I would just run through the ink and paper and would print out, didn't necessarily know what I was looking at, but it's like, I look back today and I have like, it's a thick stack and it's like Diablo or like a Porsche GT3 or a Viper or a Mercy, and I didn't really know what they were. I was just like, it looks cool, print.
Yeah.
And then I had like this like handwritten like piece of paper that says like, this is TJ's car club and the people forever on the list, like blank blank name that were in it, and it's like people who failed to get in. Like it was just, but yes, I still have that binder today, and like that means a lot to me. That little stupid binder.
It's really cool to have that like actual documentation because like you said, this is pre-social media. Today you're growing up with pictures and you can store them and save them, but printing it out and having that binder that was just literally your recollection of everything that went through your head as the junior enthusiast all the way up until like, I mean, I think it even influenced your Murcielago purchase that you made. And I don't know, I think it's something that we as kids don't realize. And when we start to get that growth and chase that dream car, what was it like to actually get to that cover car you had?
It was very surreal. It was very cool. I bought that Lambo at this symbolic dealership I grew up going to. Although it was Ogara, you know, to me it was like, it's still symbolic. It was really cool. It was a great experience, and I think if anything, it was more of like a kind of like not a reminder, but more of like a wake up call to like the like obnoxious goals that you have are obtainable if like you have the dedication. And I think like that's so important to, and I know each of you can all like explain to this, like talent's important, but I think like 99% of it is like the dedication and passion. A lot of people might have talent to go and do something, but half of them won't ever even try. So for me, it was more like a reminder to myself to like keep trying to chase those wild, you know, goals. I think
Those dreams,
I think I bought that car when I was 23 or something like that, which was like ridiculous. And I remember the guys in the dealership were just like, what's going on? Like this kid should not be able to purchase it. It was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's, you know, really showing the audience out there, you know, you start as an enthusiast with the camera, get your start in a shop. I don't know if you had to start in a shop early on or not. But then you get to those goals and those dreams and everything you aspire to be, and you get there, right? Yeah. So that leads to the next question. What motivated you to share this experience of automotive culture?
So before I started my YouTube channel, I watched a lot of other like YouTube channels. And I like, it's like that classic story that like, I feel like every like dad who has a son like goes through it, where like son gets girlfriend, is with girlfriend for X amount of years through high school, and then they break up and like son is shattered. Like I was like going through like that experience where like I just got dumped and I thought my life was over and like just super depressed. And I started watching YouTube, And I started to watch like, this is gonna sound so lame to you guys, but I started watching like vlogging of like couples. It sounds so lame saying it, but it's like there's
Well,
a
you're
really
looking
big
to repair something, right?
well, it was just like filling. I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, I was trying to like fill a void that I thought I lost, type of thing. But they were really cool. They were very popular at the time, like some of the largest YouTube channels in the world, where they would do daily videos, and they're just like two really cool people, and they just like do wild stuff. Like they'll travel the world, and because they have such a big following, they get really cool opportunities. And one of them was Jesse and Gina. I know no one in this room is going to know who that is, but if there's somewhat of a younger audience watching this, they were the largest YouTube channel at the time. They had like 15 million subscribers. They would post every single day of what their day-to-day normal life was. And they were just really entertaining. So I started watching that. I loved it. And at a certain point, I was like, I want to start doing YouTube. And I had done YouTube when I was in like 6th and 7th grade on like random stuff. So like I knew how to edit, and I was like, I understood that process. And I was like, I loved my car, and I was like in the background messing around with my car like way before YouTube. And eventually I was like, I'm going to start daily vlogging myself with my friends and the car stuff I get into every day. So that's what I started doing. And that kind of like, obviously snowballed to what is today, but that's kind of like what started that whole YouTube.
Well, it's kind of interesting because you took there's a lot of automotive YouTubers who just do things on cars, and your start comes from talking about really what goes on in your life.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the interesting part of like your channel and how you talk to your audience is it's always been about the relationship with the audience being a part of what you're doing. So it's not just the car, albeit the car is kind of the centric portion of it. It's about how it makes you feel. It's about how you include your friends, and really how you've really like taken all of that and put that into you and your life, and really opening that up to the audience, which just made it really a compelling thing to watch.
Yeah. So at the time, this was like, I always tell people, it was like investing in Apple before Apple was Apple. Like I was doing YouTube before, like I got made fun of, I got like teased, I got people being like, what are you doing, dude? Like embarrassing. And at the time there was like maybe 4 or 5 like larger YouTube automotive channels, and they were all like car reviews. No one was building cars. It was all like, oh, I'm driving this modified whatever, and like Matt Farah, smoking tire era, where it was like I'm just driving people's cars. And I was like, well, I don't have that. I don't have any money. Like I don't have anything cool to show. So I was like, I'm just gonna film my life, film, the very like openness of like what was going on. And I sometimes look back on it and I was like, maybe I was a little bit too transparent with things, but I think that's what like really like got people interested, just how open everything was. And it was a different take. It was very fresh at that time, and that's kind of what grew to my success, with the sprinkling in of cars and watching that kind of story unfold was very different at that time.
So that's basically staying true. I was going to be one of my questions is like, how do you stay true to your message, right?
For sure. I think it's much harder now. I think back then when there was so little going on and I truly just like didn't care. There was no objective. There was no, there wasn't a financial responsibility with everything else. Mm-hmm. I never thought about it.
It wasn't a business.
It wasn't a business.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get my CPAs, or I had the hardest time trying to even just like set things up, because they're like, what are you doing? Like, how do you want us, like, how is buying this a business expense? Like it was just not a thing.
Yeah.
So staying true then I felt was super easy, because I just never thought twice. Fast forward 10 years, and when there's multiple businesses, multiple employees, obligations, traveling, racing, and at this point, millions and millions of people across all platforms, it's very easy to second guess and do this and that. So staying true today is a much harder question to answer.
Yeah.
And I think it's I've done a lot of therapy and a lot of like trying to dig into what made me who I am and the childhood that I was raised with and all that type of stuff. And today staying true is just really not letting the noise of the outside world try to like get a grip on you, and doing what you find is the most fun regardless of what everybody thinks, because now it's very easy for people watching to give their opinion. It's very natural. It's the world we live in with socials now. Whether you're doing a build this way, a certain way, or you decide to do this decision or affect this, it's very easy for everyone to just dump on you if they want to.
Well, yeah, I feel like people really like to criticize, right? Because they're behind the screen, we call it. It's just like in the forum days. You know, they want to poke fun or criticize, but those are also the same people. They don't really ever have anything, right? And there's a lot of hate. You have 10 people loving it and one person hating it, but you know, don't want to give the attention to that one person, but it kind of affects you sometimes, right?
Absolutely. And something I always remind myself is hurt people. And a lot of the people that might leave those comments that sting, and you guys are business owners, you absolutely understand it. They're usually not in a good spot, or you might have something that they don't, or they might feel a certain way about their certain situation, and they are hurting to whatever degree, and it's much easier to try to hurt others to make themselves feel better, and that's ultimately what it comes down to, I really think. And it's just being aware of that and trying to not let that affect you. But it absolutely does. I can't sit here and say that I'm untouchable. Absolutely. I mean, being in the public light is cool, but also has a ton of drawbacks to it. And developing thick skin is definitely something you got to learn.
Well, you've always said keep moving forward. And I always think it's kind of an interesting thing because it truly has been sort of your mantra in everything you've done. But how wild is it today when you have your fan base coming up to you with tattoos of your message? I mean, what does that do to you as like a person that's had an influence now and realizes that you've got all of these people out there that you've been able to affect?
I think that I don't want to say it's odd, but
it is for sure.
But when you're like in, you know, the best way I could describe it is like when you're in my position, like nothing has really changed too much for me from when I started. I do what I want to do. I film it. I put it out there. And immediately in my world, move on. You go to the next thing. Do the same thing. Move on. Go to the next thing. And I try not to pay too much attention of how many waves it's making, good or positive. But that kind of mantra that like I've really like broadcasted has affected and touched a lot of people, and they come up and they show me that, or they show me tattoos, or show me different ways that I've impacted them. There's almost a sense of what is it called when you like don't feel like you earned it or something. It's
well, you basically
feels like a false persona. I'm like I couldn't have done that for you, or like I don't feel like I deserve that, or so it's definitely very warming, and it's a really good reminder of, you know, there are a lot of people watching, and a lot of people can be affected by this, and there's definitely a good impact that I'm leaving, which it feels awesome, but a lot of times I feel like I don't deserve it for sure, which I think that just I don't realize the impact that I can leave.
You're doing you.
Yeah, I just try to focus on my biggest thing, especially in today when, you know, business is what it is. I try to remind myself that if I'm not having fun doing it, it's not worth doing. And I've definitely explored certain things where I'm like, I don't like doing this at all. Like, at all. One of the biggest things that I preach to people is everyone always asks me, what do I do with my life? How did you do this? How did you do that? I always tell people, find whatever you love to do the most. Find a way to monetize it. Although it might not be something that you can immediately figure out. If you love doing something so much that you will work on it 12 hours a day, work on Saturday, work on Sunday, you're naturally going to progress so much more than the rest of the crowd, and try to just figure that out.
And that's what, you know, true passion does, right? So like you don't think about the hours you put into it, you just kind of do it.
Yeah.
Like you'll, you know, work on a car and spend thousands of hours thinking, buying, producing, building, wrenching, sweeping the floor every day, right?
Yeah.
Not thinking about like, well, if I got paid even $20 an hour for all those hours, that's how much this is worth. And that's like Jason Campbell from Camberg. He's got this off-road buggy. How many years has he had this thing?
Forever.
20 years. He's rebuilt it 4 times, and the engine's out of it again because it's just his thing. And no matter what, he just keeps putting time and passion into this thing, but that's what makes him tick, right?
Yeah.
And with you, it sounds like the passion, like you're staying really true to it, which I think is awesome. And obviously you're inspiring people because they're getting tattoos with your brand on their arm. I remember the first time at Camberg, someone put the Ford Ranger Edge on their arm, and it was a girl. And we're like, what the heck? Like, that is badass, but I mean, I don't even have a tattoo, and this person's got my race truck on their forearm, which to me was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
And that goes back out there. If anyone wants a Camberg tattoo and you get it, we'll give you a hat.
Oh, there you go. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's totally worth it.
Yeah, I don't even do that.
At least send them free hats or something.
I'll start carrying around T-shirts in my back pocket.
Exactly.
Whenever it happens.
But no, it's a very weird feeling because like none of us in the automotive world get into this because we're like, hey, we're going to just make money doing this. Like, I mean, there's some people out there, but they don't really stick around because it's not authentic.
Yeah.
And I mean, man, when I was 16, it was car stereos and putting pre-runner stuff on trucks in 1991. Like, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And we kind of created this thing. And Richard, same thing, like working in the stereo world and then getting a job at Magnaflow and being part of this business for over 20 years. And it's pretty wild to see where it takes you and who you meet and all the different generations, because you're a different generation than we are. And to me, it's real refreshing to see that, you know, it's not just like bolting parts on a car, like you're innovating and making products.
Yeah.
And you have a brand, right? So tell us about your brand and like what that's all about.
Yeah. So I think like kind of touching what you said, a lot of us start with the passion and then end up getting in this industry. And I'll speak for myself, but I feel it might be a similar story with you guys, especially with Camberg. Like when you get started in just a passion venture, there's a certain point when you have this much experience, when you've seen enough of the industry where you go, there might be a way for me to monetize this and push my my vision board a little bit further, where maybe I could expand it to do this and I could acquire this and acquire those like childhood fulfillment type dreams. So that's how it was very much for me. When I started doing YouTube, there was at a certain point, I was like, oh, damn, I'm making kind of a lot of money. And I don't think that like impacted me, because I was just like, this isn't going to last, so I'm not going to really let it affect me, but it's really awesome. Like I can now go buy all the parts that I am going to buy at some point, one way or another. And I slowly started to figure out my love for business and my love for figuring out ways that I can do exactly what I love doing, but at the same time capitalize and make it a monetary asset that far exceeds any job I thought I would have gotten into. Because I was in nursing school. I was my third year in, going into senior year, and I was doing YouTube maybe 3 or 4 years at this time. I've been daily uploading, so it means I upload Sunday to Monday, 365 days a year, whether you're sick or it's Christmas or it's your birthday or you're going. I went to a funeral. I found a way to make an episode.
Wow.
So I've been daily uploading. At a certain point, it started to get a lot of traction, 100,000 subscribers, 200,000. I was doing this all in school. Figured out ways to, modify the schedule, and the type of videos I filmed then were different. So it's a little bit different now, but I started there was 1 month where I was like, oh, I'm making 10 grand this month. When I was in school, the whole the whole ideology was be in nursing school, you'll make about 100 to 130 grand a year. Out of college, it's roughly 10 grand a month. And then it accelerates from there the longer you're in it or you specialize. So I was in school and I was like, damn, I just made 10 grand this month. That's like what I'm going to be making when I'm done with this degree and doing a job that I have passion in to a certain degree because of my childhood, but it's not something like if I could drive race cars all day, I'll definitely take that. So I started to figure that out. And then I ended up it went to summer and I just like doubled down, went crazy, ended up making like 20 grand that month. And I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah, the light bulb goes off.
The light bulb goes off and I'm like,
and just so people out there understand nursing school, my daughter's actually in nursing school now, third year. Yeah. And I mean, she's studying 10 hours a day. Like, it's like you're becoming a doctor.
It's gnarly.
It is gnarly.
The competitiveness in California, especially Southern California, is probably some of the gnarliest in the nation.
And so to me, like hearing you've invested 3 years in this,
Yeah.
and then you're giving that up to then just purely pursue
My
automotive.
thought was school will always be there.
It's true.
This opportunity, I thought about it plenty of times. I was like, if I pass up on this or go back to school and my check goes down a little bit, I'm going to forever hate myself for not trying.
Yeah.
And at this moment in time, I was very much like into like different motivational speakers and studying different stories of a lot of big names in, at the time, Ken Block, Mad Mike, Von Gittin, and was looking at these other individuals and studying their story. And I wanted to know their story better than they knew it themselves. So I can try to identify different avenues that might light up in my future that I could be like, oh, I've seen that work before. And I was like, if I don't take that opportunity now, I'm going to forever hate myself.
Yeah.
So I, went to dinner, had my whole family there. I'm like, hey, I'm backing out. I'm chasing this. I'll pay for the school if I need to go back. I'll figure out a way to do it, but I'm not going to lose this opportunity.
Yeah.
And the rest was kind of history. And from then, YouTube, full accelerated. Corporate sponsorships and corporate partnerships did not exist. I mean, I've been going to SEMA since I was 17, 16, really right in the beginning when I started YouTube. And I remember sneaking in. SEMA hates this story. I'd make fake badges, make fake passes.
We all did it.
Everyone did it. Find a way in. And I would go there with my little shitty business cards I got from Staples. And I would be like, go to everyone out there was like, here's who I am. Here's who I am. That's what I do. And just like first 3 years, written off.
Well, that comes to the whole thing, right? So back then you're like, hey, I'm on YouTube and I got all these views and this is awesome. And they're like, what's YouTube?
And what is YouTube? What is that? So very much that same story. And then like the third or fourth year going in, and every year I'd go back, I find the same person. I would say the same thing. Be like, hey, I have 25,000 subscribers next year. Hey, I have 100,000 subscribers next year. Hey, I have 250,000 subscribers. And then like the fourth year, it's like, hey, I'm at 700,000 or whatever it was. And, eventually it kind of clicked and slowly the media started to catch up with corporate, which all of these massive big brands that we all look up to in the aftermarket space, they're all, ran by people that aren't our age, obviously. They're in a different generation, as you said. So for them, internet, there was no marketing on the internet, barely any. It was all magazines, TV shows.
And all that went away.
And all that started to taper.
I used to sit in the magazine because we would buy ads in magazines and I would be like, I don't want the ad anymore. And they were basically giving them away for free. Like, hey, we'll give you all this editorial. Hey, a full page ad will be $500, but we'll write this. Okay, well, the editorial's cool because it's good for the sponsors, right? But we figured like Instagram and Facebook, because Cambric had over 2 million Facebook people.
Yeah.
One of my biggest flops was the YouTube page. Like it was good, but then we just kind of ignored it.
Yeah.
When it was really growing.
Yeah.
Right? And it's so powerful now because there is no magazine. TV's saturated. Like there's 1,000 channels you could watch on TV, and like people are on YouTube. And the next generation, it's really all about social media.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's all it is.
Major. Mm-hmm. And I saw it from very early on, and I saw the future, and I was like, it's going here. I know it's going here. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep trying to build on that, build my Instagram and all those types of things, and just kept trying to sell myself. And eventually, it finally clicked on the fourth year. My fourth year going back to McGuire's, RJ DeVera, who had a very similar experience in a certain way. He was on the Fast and Furious. He drove the S2000, and he had a small role in that. And he kind of saw a similar story where he became really famous in the Fast and Furious and would get paid to go to import nights and had Pepsi deals and all this stuff. And he kind of saw a similar track and he was like, I'm going to give you a shot. And, that was like, meant the world to me because I was like, I fucking did it. Like, I broke through one. There's 10 gates I want to get through.
This is your first sponsor.
That was my first, sponsored on not like a
product trade out.
A product trade out or like, hey, we'll give you costs on our website. It was like, hey, here's a 3M contract. Here's what you need to do. Here's what we're expecting out of you. Like, sign the dotted line type of thing. And and I remember at that time, no one else in the space, and there was a lot of other creators, no one had that. Like, I broke down that wall of like, looking back, like, hey guys, it's possible. Just get your shit together, figure out a way to activate and provide value and learn the business side of it so you know how to speak to them and you can, prove to them that there's ROI left for you.
Yeah.
And so that kind of started the steamroll and eventually led to Magnaflow, me meeting Richard, and Richard looking at me and being like, I see your vision, I see your passion, I'm going to invest in you. Let's start here, which, eventually has expanded into a roll call of some of the largest brands in the automotive space, which I'm super honored to have. And then in that early stage too, once I hit around like 100,000, 200,000 subscribers, I started my clothing brand because I was really into business. I loved finding a way to find something you love and monetize it for a living. Like that to me was the coolest thing in the world. And again, watching Ken with DC, then starting Hoonigan, it left a rough roadmap where you could kind of see what he did, the conversations he must have had, the people in his life that he met that helped connect him here to there to there. And I was like, I'm going to start a clothing brand. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do it my way. I started to kind of get into street fashion a little bit. Started Hunt & Co., which today is a huge part of my life. It's massive. And then, 2019 started another company called Straight Hunter Designs, which is, my love of Rocket Bunny when I was younger and Pandem and wide bodies in the JDM space. I was like, found a hole that I was like, this sucks about all these businesses. Why don't I just create something that can fix all that? And I met the dream team throughout my years of going to SEMA and being in the industry, met John Sabal, met some of the guys from Street Fighter LA that knew how to actually piece this together. I was like, guys, let's sit down, let's create something here. And then started Street Hunter. And then, throughout that, there's been awesome opportunities for investing in certain companies that I thought would pop and gotten lucky along the way. And now I have multiple different brands in this space that I'm super proud of. And
So with Street Hunter, obviously you had a lot of different builds and you're building product to go on these vehicles. What was your favorite build?
probably the first thing we did, which was the A90 Supra. That was our debut at the Magnaflow booth, 2019. At that time, the Supra had been out for 3 months going into SEMA. Everyone was trying to get their hands on it. Rocket Bunny's kind of like the king, in my opinion. You have Liberty Walk, they're a little bit more higher end. There you don't see them as much, but Pandem, Rocket Bunny, staple. They own the market. And I was like, we're going to create one that's better than them. That was my goal. I was like, we're going to come in as a nobody, be on display at SEMA among the sea of other 20 other Rocket Bunny Supras that were there. And I was like, we're going to have the best looking kit. That's our goal.
How was that then during that rush, during those 3 months, knowing you had that deadline and then having this new business and then having to collab all these things? I know your team is built of a lot of friends, which is awesome, so they can put in those hours and time. But I mean, 3D printing, getting all of the latest technologies that were out there to try to drive this product out there. It's not as easy as just making something that looks good for the day of the show. You had to make a product that you could produce.
Yeah. I mean, it was terrifying in a lot of ways. You guys can speak so well to this. I mean, one, just creating a new brand as a public figure has a lot of drawbacks. A lot of people will go, you're just in it for the money. You're just trying to take it. You don't actually run that. You're just being paid to say that you know, this or that. You just get, shattered with all that. But again, what we talked about, blocking out the noise, being like, nah, I actually love this. I've been doing this for 6 years. I've had a passion in this. I know the research. I trust my innate skills that I've learned from others to make the executive calls, so I know it's going to be the right puzzle pieces to let it survive, right? I mean, starting a new business is terrifying, and I've had multiple businesses before this. So going into SEMA was terrifying, hoping it would all work out, all fronting all the money to get everything to work out, and then also hoping people would like it. That's another big thing when you're doing designing. Ultimately, it was a big hit. It's currently the #1 aftermarket wide body on an A90 Supra worldwide. It was a big hit for us. We designed a wing that was a separate off of it. That is the #1 Supra wing sold worldwide.
Wait, you're beating the original Supra, the early
Of the A90.
I was gonna say.
No, of the A90s, of the wings that are out there. I don't want to share numbers, but we have sold thousands just of that wing. And the wide body is in the multi-hundreds, which is crazy that was our first product. So it was a great hit the ground running, and people ultimately loved it.
And it's kind of crazy to me because it's reminding me back in 1993 when I worked at Rod Millen Motorsports. So Reese Millen and I ran his dad, Rod Millen's aftermarket shop. So we made parts, and at the time it was the Super Turbos, like the early 90s, the RX-7s, but they were really big in Mazda Miatas, right? And to me, I would always look at a Mazda Miata and go, my cousin Sherry has one of those.
Yeah.
They're cute. But they did like the Speedster top deck cover for the convertible. They made a body kit, and we sold thousands of those body kits. And they weren't made out of fiberglass. They're made out of like a plastic material.
Yeah, like a polyurethane.
Yeah. And we would get them delivered, painted, bubble wrapped. And what we did is we designed it, right? And then we had this manufacturer down the street. They were really good at manufacturing, make this whole body kit. And it would blow me away at the people who would call literally from all over the world with their credit card number and like, do you have it in stock? I want it now.
Yep.
Because it made the car look like a mini little Porsche Speedster, right?
Yep.
It was kind of cool. And what Rod did back then, and this is kind of the same thing as what you're doing now, but, you know, they would put a massive turbo on this car, make it, I mean, it was the Road and Track had it as the best handling street car in the world at over a G in the skid pad.
Wow.
And back in the early 90s, that was massive.
Yeah.
But the car had like 600 or 700 horsepower, that little four cylinder, because they turboed the crap out of it. And so we had our car staying true. And then there was, I think it was called Monster Miata at the time.
Yeah, I was going to say, Monster Miata.
Yeah, they put V8s in them,
Yep.
right? And it was like kind of the beginning of all that stuff. And I never really put it together, but stylistically, like the country and the world, like California sets a trend, but everyone else is like, that's badass. I got to have it.
Yeah.
And it would blow me away. Like Reese and I, like we would sell in the morning and we would package in the afternoon as we're doing this business, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of Miatas, there's an interesting piece of Miata history in your world.
Yeah.
And it also was a first two with a V8, just an LS.
Yeah.
So TJ with an LS, TJ with a Miata.
I know,
and
very weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about that?
One of my best friends, we went to high school together. We went through nursing school together. And then I dropped, he was a car guy as well. He's had this dinky Miata and he just loves it. It was a 1.6 with a turbo on it. Maybe he might have swapped to a 1.8, but he just loved this damn thing. Had an eBay turbo kit on it with a little eBay blow-off valve. It sounded great. And his dream was the Monster Miata. His dream was to LS swap it and have this like crazy little Miata. So a few years ago, 2 years ago maybe, we did actually, you guys will like this. I can't tell much about it. If I had Dylan here, he'd be able to expand on it. We got a race truck engine. It was an LS3 from a trophy truck.
So the spec trophy truck.
Yes, that was it. That was it. That's exactly what it was. We bought one of those, got it for a pretty good deal, and bought the swap kit and came to Rich, had Rich do a custom exhaust on a loud mode and then a not so loud mode, although they're both very loud. And it is, I've never owned an LS. I'm a JDM guy, so JZs, RBs, 13Bs, 4Gs, that's my thing. Got the LS, drove for the first time, and I was like, that car is just exactly what you said, it's a monster. His make's probably like 450, something like that. And it is the rowdiest car, scariest car. You feel like you're going to die.
I just remember seeing you at the drag strip with this grin on your face of like, what has been going on? How come this hasn't been in my life?
Yeah, that opened my eyes to the whole LS world and what having low-end torque is all about. And I was just like, damn, I have been missing out on this my whole entire life. And that was my kind of intro to it. But yeah, that little Miata was a ripper. He still drives it today. Literally, I see him he's on the nursing schedule, so he's working usually Thursday to Sunday, midnights to 8 a.m. So I don't see him much, but when we do, he's usually driving that little
How
Miata.
weird is that, though, knowing that you kind of would have been on that same path and then seeing the differences in lifestyles that you did for kind of following your passion?
It's definitely very eye-opening. I can't lie and say there's not some days where I'm like, man, I wish I should have taken the easier route. When like you get home after just a rough day, or the whole SEMA debacle with Street Hunter, I'm just like, the world is loud right now. My life could be so much simpler. But I love what I do. I wake up every day and I'm so stoked. I'm the first one in the shop. Love it. But when I see it, I'm like, I talk to him, I'm like, so how was your day? Like, what was the craziest ER story you saw? And I still have like a lot of passion in it. It's wild. I'm very happy I did what I did. I don't regret anything. But some days, you have a long day. You're like, I wish I just did something normal.
So the SEMA thing, that was one of my questions. Is you created a few waves at SEMA this year?
Few is an understatement. I don't want to say too much. We created a product that a certain auto manufacturer didn't like. They felt offense to it. Although there is a bunch of other people making exact one-on-one versions of what they are selling, and ours is different on multiple different areas. We saw an opportunity to create something that was a hole in the market that we wanted to fill, that we thought would be an amazing ode to what, my biggest inspiration in Street Hunter is racing. As I've gotten into racing heavily in the last 3 or 4 years, it's no different. All the cool things that is on Astons, that is on Ferraris, that is on Lambos, guess where it all is made first? In F1. All the cool stuff that makes it to production cars is all from racing. Whether it's F1, whether it's their GT3 programs, whether it's their GT4 programs, that's the cool stuff. And as I've gotten into racing, I've slowly started to see that like production cars are lame. They might be fast, but in the world of what's out there, you know this.
Yeah.
Race cars are just different.
They're cool.
Cannot beat them.
So it brings me back to your wing story. As I had a 2017 Porsche GTS, and I was kind of new to Porsches at the time. That was actually the first Porsche I bought, but I bought a Tech Art wing.
Yeah. And
so Tech Art's company that makes badass body kits and wheels, and they really trick out these cars, but they're inspired by the GT cars.
Yeah.
And what's funny now is the Tech Art wing I had in 2017, if you look at the Aero Cup kit that comes on a 992, it's almost identical. So it's kind of like who copied who here, right? But it's automotive passion where you want your car to be tricked out and customized.
Yeah.
And so if you get inspiration from an auto manufacturer because they're doing something and you can trickle that down to the average person's car, that's the business of it, right?
I mean, absolutely. And, I'm not complaining about what happened. I get the position, but every car out there is inspired or redesigned after something else. Originality, I don't want to say it's impossible, but at this point in our game, it's very, very difficult. And that's not to say you go out and just copy things and this or that, but everything has an inspiration story. The whole Mark V kit we did is literally a combination of a Mazda FD RX-7 speed wing and the TRD wing on a 880 Supra. You go like this.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, that's all that is. I mean, and that's our industry. It's taking inspiration
Well, that's what SEMA is about that. That's the whole point.
Making it yours.
SEMA is supposed to be the foundation of the aftermarket industry.
Correct.
That is their whole nonprofit idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, the car wasn't allowed to go. There were certain claims that were made that were completely false, and it incited the wrong mentality, and we were stripped the opportunity to have a one-of-one vehicle on display. And we're currently trying to make peace, but I stand very true and stand very proud when there are differences redesigned around everything to not discredit or disrespect them, but more so be like, this is really cool. You guys are leading away. I love that you're able to make a car that is true to what your GT3 car is. That's what that car is. It's the GT3 RS for them.
Yeah.
So, we're a threat, and they didn't like that. And to a certain extent, that's a compliment and also a learning lesson. And as someone that's a businessman, I take it to the chin, learn from it, try to not take it personally, and figure out how to walk that line better in the future. So painful, but it's not the end of the line for Street Hunter on that project. That's all.
Well, and then the positive of it, now the globe and the automotive world knows who you are.
Sick.
Right?
Yeah.
No, but I've read a lot of comments on it, right? And there's always haters, but there's a lot of positive out there, right? So the automotive industry is like when you say a GT car, well, why would anyone put a wing on a normal Porsche? It's because they like that GT3.
Yeah.
Right. So then they're buying that wing. It's kind of what you do. And obviously, like it could work out, or you could make a few more tweaks and then you have a kit, but now people want it, right?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it is to make some tweaks that make it more distinctive, this and that, and hopefully move on from that, and people get to reap the cool creativity and inspiration that was kind of what we were aiming for from the very beginning. But yes, very true to what you said. If you look at any aftermarket parts, they're all just they take an inspiration from a certain car or a certain wing style that was usually raced, or is from.
You reimagined it. You kind of brought your twist into it.
The idea wasn't to just go. It was more like, okay, cool. Here's something really rad that you're not ever going to see. There's so many limited productions. They're already all sold. They're going to be a collector's car. The market's already selling one-of-one replicas of them, and there's no burning fires anywhere. Multiple people doing it. Let's make it different to our own degree and do something that we know people want, clearly. And then originally did it, everyone was like, yeah. And then I made the video and everyone's like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, whatever.
Well, I think that's something that's interesting too, if they actually knew your timeline and like understood what you've done. And I think that's where, getting this larger audience, you have the people that don't know. And that's kind of somewhat of what we want to talk about today, is kind of getting to know who TJ is.
Yeah.
And if you look at the rest of your collection, you'll see that this is no different an expression of yours to any other vehicle you've had.
No.
Whether it's the earlier vehicles, your RX-7, you go into what influenced you. You've got a lot of these tribute cars that are kind of on the border of the Fast and Furious because that was a big influence to you. You've changed your taste a lot, and in going through being a JDM core person. But the Mustang was impactful to you. I mean, you've had several of them on your channel.
Yeah.
As you've kind of grown to understand what the powertrain does, and obviously the opportunities to kind of play with that V8 world. And it's been interesting to watch and see. But what upcoming projects that you have are a little different from what you've kind of seen in like your JDM collection that I know you're exploring for both the race and your personal collection world?
Yeah, so some stuff that we're working on next year. Well, so I've done a few of them before in the past. So as I've told you, I really love seeing race cars on the street. So I've done this twice before. I got a 458 GT3 body, so raced in the GT3 series. It's a completely different carbon fiber body. And I was able to buy that from a retired team that ran that car, bought all their body pieces, and then retrofitted it onto a stock 458. So you see it on the road, you're like,
wait a minute,
why is there a 458 GT3 car on the street? And you go and you look at it, and it's actually converted on a street car with like stock interior, everything.
So did you start with a crashed vehicle?
Yeah, so that Ferrari, that was like 5-7 years ago. I couldn't afford a Ferrari 458, so I bought a crashed one. The whole front end was ripped off it, rebuilt the whole thing, and then got that kit, and then retrofitted all of those pieces on. And then I did that with the M4. The M4 is a GT3 car.
I actually saw that car. I thought it looked badass. Like, that thing was really cool.
I loved that car. That one was such a nightmare to build because the Ferrari 458 is obviously rear engine, and they really use that. The chassis of the GT3 car, the 458, is very true to the production chassis, minus different suspension, this and that. It's the same chassis, where the M4 is so wildly different because the BMW obviously front engine, but the car is actually more of like a mid-engine. The P58, which is a motor that is half the size of the actual S58 in the M4. It sits 3 feet back, different transmission, this, that, wheelbase extended on the car. So I was able to, through certain friends of the BMW world, order a brand new body for a GT3 race team.
Oh, wow. Which
upset some of the race world because they're like,
you're not supposed to have that.
You're not supposed to have that. Got that, and that project was a 7-month long fabrication process. Nothing fits, nothing bolts up. Had to do custom suspension, work with Öhlins to do completely different everything, adjust caster, adjust front wheelbase, cut the whole rear quarter of the car off through the trunk, get everything to fit, get the gas to fill. And the car is absolutely insane looking, as you said. So cool. So we did that, and that car is super rad. And now doing a couple other insane GT3 builds that every time we do them, they do millions of views. no one's building them because one, you can't get them. Two, if you can't get it, you're paying more than what the car is worth for these destroyed carbon pieces, and this just the sheer cost of, I mean, the amount of time we had our guys build the M4,
It's wild.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fab hours. So it's really cool doing that. I like having things you don't see anywhere else, no one's ever done, and they don't belong. And my obviously expression for racing has me being like, I am obsessed with that. So I have a few more crazy GT3. I think we might this year actually work with an OE on it, which is like bonkers. That I'm really excited about, but we'll see. It should happen, hopefully.
Awesome.
A lot of cool stuff coming up this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I know it's time flies, and we've had a lot of opportunities to kind of work and get to know like what it is you do and kind of express, you know, our audience as we've grown. I think that was probably one of the more interesting things when we brought you on board was you weren't our typical person that we worked with in the side of kind of everybody knows Magnaflow is sort of a American domestic and truck kind of brand.
Yeah.
And I always welcome the idea that when we talked, it was like, well, what can I do to help bring your audience to what you do? And it was interesting because we have our roots back in the Fast and Furious, which is funny. If you go dig into the deepest of those,
Yeah.
the Too Fast, Too Furious and on, you're going to find a Magnaflow logo on a number of different things. And we've touched a number of those stunt cars, but it was really interesting to be able to bring you on board and kind of show a different side of Magnaflow and our opportunities and what we can do and develop in a world that we weren't really recognized to be a part of. So it's been a really fun journey and kind of learning what it is that you've contributed to that world, but also what you've contributed to our brand as well.
Yeah, I think working with Magnaflow has been a really cool experience because one, it's not typically where like a lot of the cars that I immediately started tinkering on, there wasn't really support from Magnaflow for those because they're so old. This is not really being sold anymore. But when I first met Rich, it was, you know, you were very like clear of, I have somewhat of an understanding of what you do and I respect it and I see like where you're trying to go and we want to be a part of that, which was still to this day like my biggest thing that I look for with partners that I like to work with is just trusting where the vision is going or kind of trusting. And Rich is like, what are you doing this year? And I'm like, I don't know yet. Still trying to figure that out because a lot of shit comes up last minute. But what Magnaflow stands for and what is done here is something that I don't feel a lot of other muffler or exhaust or catalytic converter companies can really say of how amazing the facility is and how so much of what Magnaflow has stayed true to in its own roots. That to me was like, you know, pretty astounding. So it's been really awesome to be kind of indicted into this family and get to meet multiple different people behind the scenes and really get an up close look of what Magnaflow is other than just selling performance exhaust because there's so much more to it than that, which I never knew.
Yeah.
I never knew that. And I don't think a lot of people out there know that. And I think when they get to learn that story, the level of respect and desire for the part increases with that, which is what it's done for me, which is why I'm so confident it will do that for everybody else. So it's been a very wild ride. Very cool. And I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today on the show.
Yeah.
That was an amazing story. Learned a lot about you.
Yeah.
I'm sure the audience is going to be very thrilled to learn this.
Good times, man. Probably have you back on board when we get some of these new projects here and talking about some of the more details, but it was enjoyable to figure out, you know, and re-express some of the things. I know it seems like it was just yesterday, but, you know, it's been approaching a decade now of watching your growth and kind of participating in the world that you are in. So it's cool to have this opportunity to express to everybody else out there what it is that we're doing, maybe in more details, and hopefully going forward, maybe talking about some of those new projects when they come up a little bit sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to all that. It's been a very wild ride. I'm very blessed to be here, and I'm very thankful for all the opportunities. And can't believe we're going on 30 years of doing YouTube stuff. That's makes me feel old. So I know all you guys love to hear that in here.
Yeah.
So it's wild, man. It's trippy.
All right. So what an amazing show today. Thank you so much for coming down and taking time out of your day for this. I know you got to catch a flight.
Yep.
So
Gotta go do some racing.
yeah,
I'm excited.
I'm excited for you. Hearing about these race cars is pretty cool.
Yeah. One day I'll get in a truck, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Sweet.
Let's do it.
I'm excited.
Why don't you tell some people how they can find you if they don't already know where
Yeah.
to find you at?
Yeah, it's pretty much search TJ Hunt on any platform. It'll be the first one there. It's the same name across everything.
And I'm Rich Waitist, and you can find me at Oxidizer on Instagram.
And I'm Jerry Zayden. All my social channels are at Jerry Zayden. And you can find more information on our show. Follow us on YouTube at Magnaflow TV. And all the other social channels are Magnaflow. This has been the MF Show.